that gave capsular and labral tears and bone edema. So what is the evidence? You have to stretch. Tightening of the antero-inferior capsule will give rise to restriction of abduction and external rotation. Tightening of the posterior superior capsule will give rise to restriction of internal rotation, and tightening of the anterior superior capsule gives rise to limitation of external rotation. So therefore the lateral capsule is never contracted because the hand is on the side of the table. First is the anterior inferior capsule and the posterior capsule. These have to be stretched, and stretching of this will give complete resolution if the patient comes early of frozen shoulder. What is my method of treatment? My method of treatment first is wall rubbing. You tell the patient to do wall rubbing exercises. 50. He has to do 50, otherwise I say you don't come back. 50 4 times a day for 3 to 4 weeks till the inferior capsule and the inferior part of the glenohumeral ligament stretches out completely. The patient cannot go into abduction and external rotation until he stretches the inferior capsule and the anterior part of the inferior glenohumeral ligament. This he has to do. Subsequent to that, if he does 50 4 times a day, then he has to come, and that time I teach him butterfly exercises to stretch. The inferior capsule is stretched now. Now we have to stretch the posterior and the anterior capsule. That also he has to do 50 4 times a day. That means now he has to do 100 4 times a day. That he has to find time and do it, otherwise he is not going to resolve and he is not going to get that outcome. Sustained subsequent to that, the third time when he comes, he will do sustained standing with the side of the body to the wall 5 minutes after doing that exercises of 100, 100, 100. So 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes and 5 minutes. If he does that, I have never seen any frozen shoulder, I have never referred any frozen shoulder to any physiotherapist. They do that and they get okay. Provided they have come early. If they have absolutely gone case that they have come after 7, 8 months totally stiff, then probably they require arthroscopic release. Otherwise, this is how they do it. So, first stage, 50 4 times a day. He is stretching the inferior capsule. Unless the inferior capsule is straight, you will not go to the second stage. Wall rubbing. He has to stretch and stretch 50 4 times a day. Yes? Subsequent to that, now that the inferior capsule is straight, he will doing the anterior capsule, posterior capsule, anterior capsule, posterior capsule, anterior, posterior. He has to do that 50 4 times a day, and subsequent to that, then when he has done 50, 50, 100, 400 times, then he has to do the next thing. Sorry. There are the next slide. Yeah. Then standing to the side of the wall for 5 minutes. This if he does, no frozen shoulder is ever going to come back with the same complaint. In fact, you have to tell him that the other side will get involved, especially if he is diabetic, after 1.5 to 2 years. Next, tennis elbow. It's a degenerative tendinosis of the extensor carpi radialis brevis only. And therefore, if you get tenderness at the extensor carpi radialis brevis, it is tennis elbow. The extensor carpi radialis brevis is underused and undergoes stress shielding because you have got the extensor carpi radialis longus. Underuse of extensor carpi radialis brevis makes it prone to injury, but there are no inflammatory cells. Therefore, you should, for tennis elbow, you should never give diclofenac. It's not going to work. There is no inflammation. In fact, biopsy has been taken and there are no inflammatory cells. It's a degeneration. So, what is the evidence of power exercise? Exercise group has a faster regression of pain than non-exercise group. Rehabilitation exercises and strengthening against resistance overcomes the deficit in the grip strength and the mainstay of successful treatment. So he has to have strengthening exercises. Method of treatment. My method of treatment is very simple. He has to get TheraBands. TheraBands are available everywhere in all sports shops. And this patient who is coming with tennis elbow pain, if he does TheraBands in the clinic, as he goes out, there is no pain. The pain is gone there. It is not paining. It's tender. Next minute it's not tender. And therefore, of course, he has to practice it at home. So easily available, light to carry. It's an in-house treatment. Once again, I don't refer any patient of tennis elbow to any physiotherapist. Static stretch, so that I'll show you biceps and all. So that I'll show you by the video. Complete relief of symptoms to sedentary workers and housewives as they leave the clinic. The pain is gone. Very rarely I have given, and that's especially for industrial workers, you have to give a steroid injection, but otherwise these patients I have never given a steroid injection, nor have I referred to any physio clinic. So TheraBand. Exercises for tennis elbow, just stretch the TheraBand for extensor carpi radialis brevis strengthening. So this is how he can do with the elbow and hand straight. Then he will put it in the foot, and with the wrist lock he will do the biceps. So extensor carpi radialis is tight, it is not overstretched. And lastly, if you wish, you may not, because the patient often gets confused, but if you wish, you can do forearm. But this last exercise is not this. You do the two things, stretch and biceps. Tennis elbow out of the clinic is gone. There and there itself, there will be no tennis elbow pain. That much I can assure you. Plantar fasciitis. A person who has got a flat foot will never have a calcaneal spur. A patient who has got a cavus foot is going to have a calcaneal spur because the spur is the effect of tight plantar fascia. So calcaneal spur is the effect of tight plantar fascia and not a cause of heel pain. Similarly, retrocalcaneal spur is also tightness of the tendo Achilles. Usually the patients have a cavus foot with tight plantar fascia and TA and no flat foot. No flat foot has ever, we had a lecture on foot. That was all flat foot, they never had spurs. You remember? No patient. Actually patients have a cavus foot and TA. No flat foot has ever, and I have never seen a calcaneal spur in a flat foot. Because it is like a tight, that katipatang is tight, so it will cut off. If you give deal, it will not get cut off. That is the same principle. Pain in the heel in the morning, of course. Pain on getting up from the chair after sitting for a long time. Heel tenderness are the classic symptoms of plantar fasciitis and calcaneal spur. So this is a calcaneal spur, and what is actually happening is that, you see, this calcaneal spur over here it is, and it is stretched from the metatarsal head. It is not going to the toes, and its origin is where? The origin is at the calcaneum over here. And that is how the spur formed, because this is tight. So therefore, a flat foot never has a calcaneal spur. So what are we going to do? We are going to stretch the plantar fascia. And there are two methods, very simple methods, OPD methods. This is the OPD clinic. Marked improvement in plantar fascia, and say this is the evidence. All this is evidence based. Structure specific plantar fascia stretching exercises. Now you refer these plantar fascia to physiotherapists, and I really don't know what happens. They never get relief because they don't know this basic principle. I don't refer. So we have to stretch. Calf stretching, gastrosoleus as a treatment for plantar fasciitis. This is all evidence based. How do I do? There are two methods. The first method is standing on the step, that I'll show you next. And standing on the step with the heel stretch, foot at the head and the metatarsal. This is the method. So what is this? This is a block. This is a block of say 1 inch block, foot block, wooden block. It has to be at the level of the metatarsal head and not at the toes. Because what I told you, the plantar fascia is at the metatarsal head. Yes? Right. Now, the second point. the heel must touch the wall. Point number 3, the heel must touch the floor, that is the bed, and the knee has to be straight. How long he has to do it? He has to do it only for 10 minutes a day. And if a patient comes with plantar fasciitis and pain in the heel, and you do that in your clinic for 10 minutes, that patient says, "Where is my pain?" The pain is gone, because at that instant the plantar fascia is totally stretched. And the second, very easy, what you can tell him, that he has to stand on the stool, but you don't have a stool because at home, so you take the first step of his society where he is going up, not the top step, because he might fall. So first step of the society, and what does he do? This is for retrocalcaneal spur also. Plantar fasciitis, calcaneal spur and retrocalcaneal spur. And how it is? Very simple. You ask him to stand once again where? On the metatarsal heads. And what does he do? The heel has to go down, the knee has to be straight, and he has to stand this way only for 2 to 3 minutes. That's enough, because he has done the 10 minutes thing with the blocks. So this is enough. That patient who has come with the heel pain and who has taken diclofenac and this and that, at that instant the heel pain is gone. And he has to do it, of course, at home. In resistant cases, sometimes if they don't, then you can give a hydrocortisone, but that is very rarely, that I don't normally have to do. Okay, so this is the third condition. And now, rotator cuff tendinopathy, where you don't have the tear of the subscapularis, the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and all. Total tear, of course, you have to do. But degenerative tears, which old patients come and who are 62 and 65 years old, what is the treatment and how do they get relief in the outpatient without any hydrocortisone? In fact, you should not inject, because you are going to cause more damage because of the anti-inflammatory process of the hydrocortisone. It will damage more and it will tear. So, what is my treatment? Rotator cuff tendinopathy manifests as a painful arc syndrome. It is a degenerative tear of the rotator cuff and is common after minor jerks. NSAs are usually contraindicated, of course, after the age of 60 years because of peptic ulcer, renal failure, MI, and hypertension. Steroid injection cause further weakening of the rotator cuff. Rotator cuff strengthening exercise give excellent outcomes, poorly executed. Again, poorly understood and executed by I am not against the physiotherapy department, but they don't do it. There are rotator cuff strengthening exercises only, and no other exercise like shoulder sucking and doing this and doing that is going to work over there. So, evidence, again, this is evidence of in non-traumatic full thickness rotator cuff multi-center study, non-traumatic tears of the supraspinatus, conservative physiotherapy and surgery, no significant p-value difference, and no significant difference in physiotherapies and arthroscopy, acromioplasty. So just if the old patient has got acute pain and he's got a problem and you diagnose this as rotator cuff tear, you give him a sling and then rotator cuff strengthening exercises. And what are those rotator cuff strengthening exercises? That I will show you in the video. How do I do it? So I have to strengthen the subscapularis, the infraspinatus and the teres minor and the supraspinatus and the long head of biceps. So this is the video, very important. Just see how it is done and do it to your patient, and as the patient goes out of the clinic with the painful arch syndrome, he will have no pain. Yeah. So strengthening the infraspinatus and teres minor. So external and internal rotation. You have to block the external rotation. She is blocking external rotation. Subscapularis development. She is blocking internal rotation. So the first was infraspinatus and teres minor, external rotators. The second was subscap. Block it. The second, long head of biceps. Straight stretching. And the third, strengthening of the supraspinatus by abduction. So you have strengthened the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, the subscapularis and the teres minor and long head of bicep if you wish. And you tell this patient to do it at home. You have to train her in your clinic for 5-10 minutes it will take. They will do. Their pain of rotator cuff tendinitis is gone. You don't require any arthroscopy or whatsoever for these old patients who have got degenerative tears. Yeah. Okay, so that's the end of the slideshow of the 4 things. So, yeah.